In February of 2002, two individuals in a blue Caprice vehicle rained terror on the community of Washington, D.C. Please allow me to attempt to do the queen of true crime content, Stephanie Harlow, justice when I say, in order to understand the situation that happens, we need to understand their past. I love her content, love, 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 love. And I really do agree with that sentiment of going back and just kind of seeing how do we get to the person that we have today. This case happened when I was 8 years old, and this case, along with the Jonestown Massacre, Central Park Five, all of these cases, these have I just have some sort of childhood memory of. In this case, it was kind of odd because I was actually teased with a moniker from this case. So I was 8 years old, okay, and it was like a divided Big Brother house. I was a girl all alone with no amigos, no me guys, nobody. Um, I had really bad allergies, and I would like sneeze everywhere and stuff like that. Kind of like not everywhere, but like I would just like sneeze a lot to like the point like it was a lot. Like it was actually a lot. And so the kid would be like, Kayla Snipes is gonna snipe you or whatever, which is like now it sounds so dumb, but when I was young it was sad. Okay, now I'm just like that was the best y'all had. Come on, even as kids we could have been more creative than that. But um, this case is just really weird for me because I remember like going home and like watching it on the news. Like I remember people being afraid to get gas, because they were like blitz snipes attacks. Um, and I remember that when they actually got caught, that I was really shocked that they were black. But I didn't even realize. I did not realize that the age difference. I just remember knowing that they were black, but I didn't even realize that it was a 41-year-old man and a 17-year-old boy. The more I looked into Lee Boyd Malvo and learned about his childhood, it was a lot, honestly. And you can see where life failed him time and time and time again. Like you can just see where things just did not work out for him. And a lot of these things feel like they could have been avoidable. But his story is not as simple as you may think. His story is not as it's not as it's not I don't know, like it's his story is not it's not what I thought. Maybe it is what you think, but it's not what I thought. I didn't expect to see and to find notation of a child who was so smart and potentially had so much to offer the world, and somebody who seemed to love with a lot of his heart. And I know for some people, they, if you don't listen to the details of his life, you may think that maybe he can fake some of this. Maybe, maybe he can dupe some people. No, John Allen Muhammad was the trickster. And a lot of these pairs, there's a dominant one. And a lot of these pairs, there's one that is the ringleader. I feel like it's whatever they're doing this for is typically for that person's mission. For him, he reportedly, allegedly said, and I need to get more details and read more into like the trial and this type of stuff, because there's no doubt that they both are the ones who did it, but there is some doubt on exactly what the motives were because all the victims were at random. And I will also definitely have an entire video dedicated to the victims, because they are very important. And since there are so many of them, and I want to spend some time actually learning something about them, maybe some achievements, maybe some things that make them smile, who they left behind. And I want to talk about them and give them the respect that their lives deserve to have as well. But I do think there was another victim in this, and I think that was his childhood. So, it's just a lot. It's just a lot. This is going to be a long video. And if you follow along, please be patient with me. My baby girl will be in Texas in the beginning of June, which is like days away. So I'll probably pick back up at where John Allen Muhammad, they both have 3 names each. So sometimes it gets a little tongue twister tied. But John and Lee, the first video will be about his childhood mostly, because that's where I've stopped at the book I'm reading. I am reading, let me see if I can find the book and her name. Carmetta Albertus. She wrote a book called The Making of Lee Boyd Malvo, the DC Sniper. They're also called the Beltway Snipers as well. But she wrote a book because she was, I believe she is a Jamaican teacher who was assigned his case to go in and get the personal, like, social history of Lee. You got to remember, like, he got charged with capital murder, and that's a pretty heavy charge to get for a child that's a minor. So there's a lot of paperwork and just like nuances and stuff that has to be done in order, I think, for him to even have like legally qualified to be on capital, to, like, you know, like just a lot of different things that I think, because he's a minor, this was one of the requirements. And I found her book to be very, very interesting and to really give me a lot of details about him and how they met. And it's just very fascinating and very disheartening to just read a lot about his life and learn a lot about his life. But yeah, so this is most likely going to be long. So we will finally start talking about Lee Boyd's childhood. February 18th, 1985, a man by the name of Leslie and a woman by the name of Una both gave birth to their child. So he's an Aquarius. And his dad came from a really good background, like a really good household, I would say, not background. His dad came from a really good household. And his dad reports being really happy growing up. His dad's dad, so Lee's granddad, was a retired World War I vet. And he retired in Jamaica. And his dad was mixed. So Lee's dad was really proud of his heritage, I guess, of being mixed and of having good hair, which, especially living in that area in Jamaica, I could definitely see that being a thing to make him more attractive to other people. But Leslie didn't really like school. Like, he was never tied to academics. Leslie wasn't really ever into that much education, even though he did believe in it for people who were good at it. He decided to become a masonry, and I believe that's what he's still doing right now. So Leslie also was a little bit different because he was actually a dad who was really into being in his son's life, in Lee's life. Lee was his third child, but he also has claimed that he felt like Lee's mom was the love of his life at that time. And people around them noticed that Leslie, Lee's dad, was really different because of the fact that he was actually around. Like, it's in the times, you know, and probably even now to some degree, to a lot of degree, it's really just like acceptable. Like, marriage the way we have it in our westernized society is not the same there at all. It's really like a lot of men typically have a lot of kids with a lot of different women, and it's just very, very common for that to, like, they just move on or whatever, that type of stuff. And their involvement in their child's life is not really like obligated, but like that's not how like Leslie felt about his son. And he was really serious about wanting to marry his son's mom as well. And a lot of people around report, like a lot of his neighbors and stuff, they report like really being encouraged and really loving seeing a dad be like all about his child. Now, on the other hand, his mom, Una, she is described as being very strict, very physically abusive. And she didn't come from a good background. Also, to note, his dad as well, his dad is the youngest. His dad's like a baby. So his dad is basically the baby out of 7 kids, and his parents loved him. So like Leslie grew up in like a completely different environment than the woman he ended up being with. Una, her dad abused her and the kids. And also her mom had a really bad history of mental illness, and she was typically like not mentally available at all. And but Una was like all about school and like was so dedicated to like wanting to make it out, like no matter what. And you see that a lot throughout her story. Like you do see a lot of her like really like doing what she has to do, in some cases really doing what she has to do to get what she wants in a sense. But unfortunately, like she's a very odd mixed character. If you ask me, I think that she's just abusive no matter what, personally for me. Um and you'll see what I mean as we go through the story. But and even the fact that there were one of the last articles that she had written in 2017, or that she had given a comment for, was in 2017 that I could find. And she's on record as saying that she still to this day blames her son for where she is in life, and said that because of his bad juju that like she will always have a bad life. And to which I say, ma'am, can you not? Like, I don't know. Like, it's just like it's not about you, you know? Like that to me just it just didn't sit right with me. Um it just feels like she cares a lot more about herself than even the situation at hand, and that the fact that, you know, your son did kind of murder like more than 14 people. Um but yeah, so moving along, or back to where we were. We're talking about the parents and their upbringing. The mom's also a Virgo, by the way. September 8th. The mom, Una, she had even walked, I think it was like 18 miles in order to go ask her dad to give her money to pay for school, and her dad said no. Like, she knew that education was a way in order to be the best, in order to get the most. But then as we see, because she's not afforded any opportunities at all, that kind of gets downtrodden on her. But then you see what I think to be her taking a lot of her anger at her displacement at where she was in life out on her son. And it's very interesting to me, however, because it just seems to me like there were plenty of times where they didn't have to be in the places that they get to if the mom would not have done some of the things that she did. And it just makes me really want to know her mindset and want to know, like, what was going through her head at this time, that you would rather live in a place where there are literally rival gangs and blowing people's heads off. But we'll get there. So everyone realizes and sees that the dad is so much into Lee's life. He's so attached to the hip with his child. And Lee reports as remembering having just like loving the moments with his dad, and not so much loving the moments with his mom when they were together, but definitely wanting them to stay together. So eventually his dad ends up getting a job in another country, like another, I want to say like island. So he gets a job in another island, and when he went, it was very common for when somebody would go to another country to save money up and then send for the rest of your family later on. And I guess his living environment was like a one-room type of a living environment with a whole bunch of other people, so he didn't want to send for them. But at the same time, he was doing very well financially, and that's basically why he went there, was because it was a company that he knew he could work for, he knew he could get guaranteed money for, and he would get residency for on some levels or some degree. So, he goes here to this place and he's saving up money, putting it in a joint bank account with him and Una, and wanting to buy a house. But reportedly, Una doesn't feel like he is doing what he needs to do fast enough. And she's upset that he still doesn't want them to move where he's at. So she one day just packs their bags, takes all the money out of their joint bank account, and leaves. At this point, I think they're in Endeavor, Jamaica. And then they end up moving to Kingston, Jamaica. And she goes and stays with her sister and takes the money that was supposed to be used for the house and uses that money in order to set up a shop. And when his dad got home, his dad just sees an empty house and everything packed up, and everyone's like, yeah, Leslie left, or Una left, and she's gone, and she took the child. And so he goes to Kingston, he finds Una, and he begs her to come back with him, but she just refuses, and then she gets into a whole other relationship with another guy. And so then this guy, he basically beats Lee. Just because he wants to. Just because he's a punching bag. Beats him. And Una also just doesn't want she doesn't want anything to do with his dad anymore. And his dad begged. It's very sad, honestly. One of the neighbors said, "We could not believe it. He was too good to that woman in Little Party." His friend Lloyd Barrett recalled. He was like a lost man. No one on the corner could believe that Una left him. And the fact that she took Malvo was the worst blow of all. That child was his life. But don't get too much sympathy for the dad, because there comes a time when the dad gets called upon and the dad does not want to be there. He does not want to be there because now he's in a relationship with somebody and she sees this child as competition. So after the mom and dad break up, Malvo said that his mom started erasing anything that reminded him of his dad. And he would take away most of the toys that his dad gave him. And in fact, she even burnt some of his toys. And instead, she took all his toys and burnt them. And she replaced all his toys with nursery rhymes. And made him read them to her. Because, like I said, she's very strict disciplinarian. She's all about education. But it's just like she's all about education and she's all about control. And, it's going to be very hard for me to remain respectful while I talk about her throughout this video. And I honestly just kind of pray to God that she does not ever go on YouTube or podcast randomly her son. Like, please don't search for me, because it's just going to be very hard. Some of these cases where no one is, here today, I would probably feel a little more comfortable, but like, it's just hard to remain level-headed when I just think about some of the things I know I'm going to end up talking about. So I'm just warning. But so at this point, after she burns his toys and gives him nursery rhymes to read, which I don't think she had to do that. Like, because the way Malvo comes off, the way Lee comes off, is the fact that, like, one point he says that he just felt like he was a black nerd, Like, it's just sad. It's just sad. Like, he feels relatable on a lot of different degrees when it comes to just, like, the things that he liked. Like, he loved to read. He loved to read fiction books. He loved to write. Like, just some of the, like, just the creative things that he loved to do. It just doesn't feel like the mom had to do some of the action she did. Like, she could have let him keep his toys from his dad and also let him read nursery rhymes. But as you'll see, it just really does not seem like he's allowed to be happy with his mom. It does not seem like he's allowed to be happy. And you will really see what I mean. So now his mom ends up getting into a fight with her sister. And also, to mention, even when the mom goes back and reunites with her sister, they actually reunite. They were in a fight. They were not talking for years and years. And Una just really wanted someone to stay with, admittedly. She just wanted somebody to stay with. So she patched things up with her sister for the moment. And then they get in an argument. And then she ends up moving um, into a house with her new boyfriend. And Lee says that he remembers at that point life was just really unhappy for him. I think he was about 5 or 6. He said life was very, very miserable for him. And he just he hated even coming home. And he said he just got beat so much. And that he just felt despair. He said he was unable to understand why his father had not yet returned to save him for what he saw as the tyranny of her mother and her new lover. So his dad did try to come back about 3 times, and it just feels like to me like his dad really just wanted the mom more so even than the child. But I do feel like he tried. There was one moment where Lee talks about that his dad had brought him a flight jacket because Lee said he always wanted to be a pilot. And when his dad was talking to him, he ended up telling his dad about the fact that he was being beaten. So then because of that, his mom increased the beatings. And that to me is just so if I'm taking my child and you're never seeing my child again. I don't care if it was supposed to be our child. If you let somebody do that and then it's just really, really freaking sad. It's really freaking sad. One time, somebody was just trying to defend the child from his mom beating him. And the mom ended up grabbing a pair of scissors and tried to threaten the person who was trying to save him. And they were living with them. This is somebody else they were just randomly living with. And that's, so maybe I should just start numbering the moves. So, because it's about to start. So now we're at the point where he is 6 years old. I'm trying to read my handwriting. Now we're at the point where he is 6 years old. And he is going to Browntown's basic school. By the way, also, he's been in school since he was 2. Because don't forget, very, very education oriented. To a very, very, very strong degree. So
2:51 p.m.
Oh, thank you, clock. So this is my Apple Watch. So, another interesting point is at this time, his mom also taught him how to draw, but then got mad at him or whatever once he got good at it, and was don't be drawing. You're going to be a doctor. I don't want you to draw. So she took all his crayons and his pencils, and she replaced it with medical toys, and not even the Doc McStuffins. Not even that. Doctor toys. No. She replaced it. I mean, Doctor Stuff wouldn't be around 1985, but she replaced them with real stethoscopes. What? I think something is off with the mother, such as I think that's just obvious. No offense. Let me stay respectful. So, when he's 6 years old, he's living with his mom, and he's living with his mom's boyfriend. And he gets a cat named Charlie. And see, this is where also it's gonna be it's gonna be hard to decipher where is the line to have sympathy and empathy with this mother. Okay, so basically, he got this cat and named it Charlie. And in Jamaica, especially at the time, I don't know about now, but especially at the time, having cats as pets was not known. as a thing at all. Like it stems from Jamaican, like they used to think that cats were vampires and that they literally would kill you. So like that was like the myth and superstition. So like you're not gonna find Jamaicans keeping cats as pets. Like it's really not a thing. And it's very common, at least then, and it wasn't long ago, so it still could be now. But it was very common to stone cats and to kill them. And Lee became infatuated with the cat when he was 6, named it Charlie. So he let Charlie sleep in his bed, right? And when he let Charlie sleep in his bed, he ended up peeing. And he said that was the worst he could ever remember his mom screaming. And then she started hitting him in the head till he was bleeding. And he said the screaming, it hurt more than the physical blows. She insisted that he get rid of the cat and threatened that she would not stop beating him until Charlie was gone. He recalled feeling tremendous anger toward his mother, but he was not able to lash out at her. Malvo recalled that he got Charlie, placed him on the steps, and hit him with the broom as hard as he could. Malvo said that whenever Charlie returned to that house, he had to hit him until he went away. It could be argued here that much of the anger that Malvo felt toward his mother was being displaced onto the cat. After the cat stopped coming to the house, Malvo, who had been potty trained from when he was 1 year old, began to wet the bed regularly. Fucking wow. But then later on, I found out that his mom, I guess his mom and their sister, the one that she's living with, when they were younger, they had snuck a cat or something like that. And then something ended up happening to her, like it got like something, and that the mom kind of became like hardened after that day or something. So like I said, the mom has also been through some shit. So like I can see why she does some things she does, but I can't empathize with everything she does. I can't empathize or sympathize with all the moves she makes. I cannot. It can't be done. It can't be done. It cannot be done. Trying to remember where I was. All right, so we're about to get to the next move. Okay. So at this point, he's 6 years old, and somehow she ends up moving from staying with the boyfriend to back with the sister. But then one day they went on like some kind of trip or whatever, and when they went on a trip and came back, at the shop that Una had, all of the food was like spoiled. And all the food was spoiled because she didn't pay the electricity bill. And then for some reason, Una ended up blaming her sister for it. And this is what Malvo said. Mom was not the crying type, so she got a machete and walked down the street, her boyfriend accompanying her. Aunt Marie also wanted to fight. My mom's boyfriend and John, Marie's husband, separated the sisters. The festering wounds between sisters made endeavor seem gloomy in all future prospects. So we packed up and moved to Kingston. Sorry, my job just messaged me. Got a lot of people out. Oh, I probably should have checked. Oh, you know what? I should have checked. Hold on, let me go check. Slack. See if anybody needs some coverage in the Mercy Time off. That's our little like Slack channel to request if we want time off. I work for a pest control company from home. It's actually kind of fun. TBH. I want to go to sales. Mercy time off. Damn. So we need someone to cover me for 11 a.m. to to 12:30. It's Mountain Time. She read at 6:05. Didn't say that. Anyway, moving on. It's Friday. It's probably so busy too today. Okay, so now we are at 7. He is 7 years old. All right. So at this point, mom packs him up, and they are now going back to Kingston. But they end up living in this town, in this Providence area, whatever you want to call it, called Waterhouse. And it was pretty much the only housing that she could afford to stay at, like on her own. And he mentions the only good thing about it was that her boyfriend couldn't stay with them because there wasn't enough places for him to sleep, which is so sad. That's the only thing that he liked about it. Like he literally just like had to come from like living like in his own like house with just his mom and his dad, like getting ice cream. Like yes, his mom was like a disciplinarian and was like strict or whatever, but he mentions a lot of times like just being so happy when it was like just him and his dad and like just cherishing that time. And also something else I need to mention about the mom and the dad's dynamic is that the mom thought that the dad was beneath her because he wasn't smart to her. And so she like really like judged him a lot, and she was just kind of like, yeah, he's beneath me. Yeah, like I don't like he has no ambition and da 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 and stuff like that. Because he likes to work more with his hands, and she didn't respect that. She didn't respect working. She didn't respect working harder. She respected working smarter only, I guess. Even though she does things that are also physical, like she wanted to be a seamstress and wanted to sew. And I think that's a very tactile type of thing to do, like that, like masonry, you know, like I don't know. Anyway, so now he's living in Waterhouse, and this is a very precarious situation here. In this situation, it was called a garrison community. Garrison communities are known for their strong alliance to either two major political parties, the Jamaica Labour Party, JLP, or the People's Nation Party, PNP. In exchange for living in certain areas, residents are expected to demonstrate loyalty to whatever party controls that area. This allegiance is defended against outside influence and enforced within by area leaders, often called dons, and their subordinates. The power assumed by or invested in these leaders includes administrating or executing systems of justice, rewards, and punishment, and economic and social benefits upon residents. So based on like where you lived is based on who they said you have to like, basically like they own you. Which is just so fucking scary. Like just to have a place to sleep at night, just to close your damn eyes. You have to still give up any hope of sleeping sound. Just to be able to shit somewhere and leave your shit somewhere, you literally have to sacrifice being able to shit somewhere and leave your shit somewhere with a sound mind. It's really fucked up when you think about it. It really fucking is. So anyway, he's 7 years old. He is 7 years old. I cannot stress that enough. Now living in this new environment. His mom puts him, he's in 2nd grade. My daughter's about to be in 2nd grade, bitch. Sorry for my language. I don't know who I'm apologizing to, but whatever. So he's 7 years old, and even at 7, his teachers said that he was enthusiastic, optimally rounded, excellent in all areas, that he had good rapport with students and teachers, but it still wasn't enough for his mom, I bet you. Not I bet you, I know. It was not enough for his mom. And he's doing so good at school, and his teachers, honestly, you see Melville having a very good ability to hide his situations and to wear a mask on the horror that he was actually living in. Um, because a lot of the people around him were not cognizant of the situations that he was living in at all. They couldn't even fathom that this was his reality every day. They thought that he was living in a totally different environment. Um, and I know for some people, they may want to make the argument that, like, well, his mom was always adamant about putting him in school, so she had to have some type of something there, right? For me, it's just not enough. It's just not enough. Especially when, like, you can just see so many avenues where she could have made it different, where she could have made it better. And we don't have her full story, so maybe she tried, but there was even moments where she could have, like, literally, be honest with you, just left her son alone, and he would have been in a better place. And if you haven't already seen what I kind of mean, you'll really see it more. So now he's 7, and gun violence is something that he really has to be aware of on his way to and from school. And even just earlier, they said that there was, like, a police raid that happened, and it was between the police and the gunman, and a stray bullet ended up killing one of the pregnant women. Then this, which made the residents then strike out back towards the police, and the police strike back out towards the residents, and then just more innocent people dying. And he's still 7, and this is another story that happened. Let me see exactly where it starts at. I got some notes, and in my notes I have, like, go to page 39. Malvo remarked that out of necessity he learned what to do whenever there was gunfire. So he fell on the ground when he heard the shooting. However, fearing he was still in harm's way, he decided to run. He began running in the direction of the gunmen, who surprisingly were not running away from the police, and the police, Malvo noted, did not seem to be running toward their target. He saw further that this was because a trap had been set for them. In many of the garrison communities, entry and exit are denied outsiders when the metal grates covering large, wide trenches beneath the road surface are removed. On occasion, as soon as police drove into the community, the metal grates were removed, preventing them from leaving. In his flight, Malvo saw a youth of about 14 years old behind the wall. The police were behind Malvo, shouting at him to take cover, and were oblivious to the youth behind the wall. Malvo recalled the youth communicating with his compatriots with sounds similar to the chirping of birds. One policeman was so focused on stopping Malvo from running to his death that he did not see his own death coming. Malvo recalled what he witnessed. The young man pointed with his right hand, holding the gun between the space in the wall and his left, motioned to me to hit the ground. I dropped and started hollering, "Don't kill me, don't kill me. I won't say anything." I heard a bang. I thought I was shot. But when I looked behind me, the head of the policeman was basically gone. I got up, and the young man who had shot Babylon, as police are called in these communities, called out to me to stay put. When the coast was clear, he grabbed me, gently placed me behind the wall, and told me that he would return and tell me when to come out. I don't know how long he was gone. I was not checking the time. I was too busy looking at the dead policeman. The young man returned, and I will never forget that face. He flashed me a smile, then lifted me from my hiding place and told me to go home. In an instant, the smile evaporated. He took the revolver and patted it on his leg. He looked at the policeman, then looked at me, and his message was clear. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. In the garrison, there is an unspoken rule that if you snitch, they will not only kill you, but your immediate family, extended family, dogs, babies, everything related to you. The policeman's was the first in a trail of bodies that I would see over the next few years. Most would be strangers, like the policeman on the ground in front of me, while others would be family. 7 years old. And that is actually where I will stop on the story of Lee Boyd Malvo. When I pick back up, we'll get into his cousin and that next living situation. More living situations. I honestly thought I could do his in one video, one podcast, whatever it is. But there's just so much to talk about when it comes to him and his story. So however many parts is fine with me. Just want to make sure I save my notes like where actually I was. But if you listen to this, if you want to, comment below and let me know what your thoughts are on this case. Like I said, it's always been the one that's stuck with me. And the fact, too, that it was just two black men really did shock me. You know, like, I mean, of course, anybody of any race can kill anybody or be a serial killer. But obviously, as we all know, like, the statistics are just a little bit lower. I mean, who knows? Maybe we just don't get caught as much. Who knows? But it's just not a story that I feel like you often hear. And it's even interesting to me because while doing research on this case, Criminal Minds, like, fandom wiki popped up or whatever. And I clicked on it, and there's pretty much like the same stuff from Wikipedia, but the people that portrayed their story even on Criminal Minds are white men. So like I think that's also kind of interesting. Like I don't really care about how they portrayed it. I know a lot of times they like to like, you know, mix information around so that way stuff is not too familiar to the actual case to like not disrespect the victims. So like I know there's like just some I know that there are some storylines in Criminal Minds where the serial killer is based more on John Wayne Gacy or Ted Bundy, but they'll portray it as a woman or a man or a black person or something like that. So, you know, it's just interesting. But yeah, so I'll be back probably around sometime the first week of June. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow, depending on when I get off. If I have enough energy, maybe I'll go ahead and finish up him. So that way I can get into when they meet, and then I'll get into that's after. Cause I'm going in kind of chronological order. I'm gonna get into when they meet, and also about John Allen and his fucking failed businesses and all this type of shit. Cause he's just awful to me as well. And then get into the actual crimes, which is where I will get into the research about the victims. A lot of things to talk about. And then the actual case, and that'll be a little bit more shorter, I think, because I'm just interested a little bit in the process. Like I know like there are certain trials that or Supreme Court justice cases, I don't know how you word it, I'm not that smart in that stuff, okay, but like Romper or something like that like basically made it so that Lee Boyd couldn't even be executed because of the fact that he was under 18 when he committed the crimes. But John Allen is dead. He was executed. But Lee is still in penitentiary. He has life without any chance of parole. And yeah, so have a good day.